This is my mindful journal, and I use it to calm my anxiety, work through any problems I have in my personal, my professional life, and generally just counter some of those feelings of overwhelm that we all feel on a day-to-day basis. And these three things are some of the top reasons loads of people choose to start therapy and go to see a therapist. But I am so confident that my mindful journal has the power to stop that need altogether. You probably know that if you want to stop some of those feelings of stress, anxiety, and you want to stop feeling overwhelmed and burnt out, you need to start journaling. But the biggest issue is that there's so many different techniques and tutorials out there. I'm here to tell you that the most powerful journaling technique you can use is the mindful journal. So in today's video, I'm going to give you a full tutorial on how to actually do that. Now, as always, the timestamps are on screen and they're down below in the description, but that's enough hanging around and let's get right into the video. I want to begin by saying something somewhat controversial, and that is, I genuinely think that journaling has the power to really change your life in the way that therapy often can. But there is one huge mistake that is holding back so many people from journaling properly. This problem also explains why so many people don't actually get any benefit from therapy, and why you can waste so much money speaking to different therapists trying to solve your problems in your life. And the issue is, a lot of people hold back how they truly feel because of fear of judgment from other people. So obviously, if you're speaking with another person in real life, you're not going to be completely 100% transparent. Unfortunately, that's where a physical journal like this comes into a world of its own. Because within reason, you can hide it away so nobody sees what you're writing other than yourself. And the strongest way of calming all of these negative emotions is just to be as open as possible and free as possible with your thoughts. And that's why that mindful journal works so well. Even though you might not be comfortable sharing how you feel, I am so confident in how the mindful journal has helped me overcome my anxiety. I want to take you through some of the extracts and some of the things that I've written about, just for sake of transparency, and so I can be as open as possible with you guys and I can help you as much as possible. But before I actually show you my mindful journal, we need to understand the number one reason why most people choose to go to therapy, and that's because they feel anxious. But the actual root cause of anxiety often it's something else entirely, and that is if you're feeling overwhelmed, like there's too much on your plate and you can't seem to control your thoughts or have any sort of filter over what you're thinking. And here's something that you were probably never told. It's that these kind of feelings can be controlled. Bear with me. I can almost guarantee that everything you thought you knew about journaling and everything you've been told is wrong, at least if you want to solve some of these problems we've already spoken about. And that's because most people journal with the idea of prompting and the idea of listing things down. Now, don't get me wrong, there is a time and a place for when you want to journal like this, but with something as kind of psychologically based as those feelings of overwhelmed and anxiety, I don't think that this is a good strategy of journaling. Instead, you want to expand beyond those kind of basic habits and techniques and use something I call a brain dump. As a little context, before I show you my journal, I just want to say that I arrived in Argentina a few weeks ago, and immediately I felt really uncomfortable, really overwhelmed, and really anxious about this new kind of change in my life. So when I started to journal and try and solve some of that anxiety, the first thing I did was this brain dump. Essentially, this is just writing down whatever thoughts come to your mind, not overthinking anything, and just writing down anything on the page. And a good way to start with this is just by beginning by describing where you are. The next step in your mindful journal will finally help you get some clarity on your emotions and understand why you're feeling anxious. But it's something that not too many people know about. And my friend put it best when I spoke with her about how I was feeling. She said that it's often really important to sit in these feelings of discomfort or anxiety. In the moment, I didn't understand why. I just wanted a quick remedy to feel better. But it's only now that I've discovered why this is so important and how it allows us to easily identify in 3 quick parts why we're so anxious. If you're sitting in these feelings of discomfort, eventually you'll start to see some patterns come up and some things that are kind of underpinning why you're feeling that certain way. And if you're still struggling with this, one of the best ways I found of kind of unraveling these feelings is just beginning the sentence, I'm noticing that. and then filling in the gap. Oftentimes, when we're feeling these kind of emotions, it can just be separated into 3 distinct points. So if you look at my journal from when I was in Argentina, you can see that after kind of dwelling on those emotions and using some of the strategies that I spoke about, I identified those 3 main points and why I was anxious: about the language, about the safety, and about unknown plans. And then I went into a little bit of detail that kind of expanded on those points. After you've highlighted those 3 points, kind of detailing why you're feeling anxious, what you do next will make or break the efficacy of the mindful journal. So it's crucial that you listen really closely to what I'm about to say. I'm sure you've never heard this before, but you can only get anxious about the things that affect you in the future. So for example, you might feel anxious about a test you have coming up in the future, but you never feel anxious about how a test has gone. Instead, you might feel a bit embarrassed or sad or even happy about how the test went. So it's important to separate anxiety into those events that happen kind of in the future down the line. Now that you've finally understood this, there are 2 steps we can take to solve anxiety. As you can see in my journal, one of those steps is called fear setting. Essentially, what this means is that for each of those 3 points, those 3 things you said you were anxious about, you want to describe in as much detail as possible the kind of worst case scenario you can imagine that might take place because of what you were anxious about. And it's crucially important that you be as specific as you can when you're writing this down, because the next thing that you want to do directly follows on from this. And that is something called action promises. I don't know if you've heard before, but a really powerful technique you can do if you're feeling anxious is doing something called a mantra. And that is basically when you repeat a phrase over and over to yourself to kind of remind yourself of where you are, your presence, and the kind of person you want to be. So it might be something as simple as I am strong or I am powerful. And I'll be honest, when I first heard of this, I thought it was a bit silly and a bit ridiculous, but I never tried it until I did. And honestly, my life completely changed. And action promises are very similar and they work on the exact same principle. So what you want to do is use that fear set to make a personal promise to yourself of what you're going to do to avoid that situation. That way, you're bringing that anxiety from the future and grounding it into something in the present. And you're changing those emotions from anxiety into something else. And it becomes a sort of powerful personal mantra that you can repeat to yourself every time those kind of emotions come up. Because we all know that the reason why writing things down has such a big impact is because it gives a sense of intentionality. And you finally realize that you're capable of doing those hard things. If you're interested in finding out how you can journal to track your life and make sustainable progress towards your goals without really relying on discipline, you're going to want to watch this video all about crash journaling. So I will see you all there.